Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs and today I have this fun whimsical spring card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So as usual I am going to cut down some cardstock, although that is just to run it through my die cutting machine with some layers. And this card is actually kind of special because my friend Karen reached out to me. She runs a Facebook group and she reached out and asked if I would create a tutorial special for that group today. So that's what this is. And I just had a lot of fun creating this card. So she kind of just suggested that it be spring themed possibly. So that is the route that I went for this. And I will talk a little more about the group as we get into the card. So I ran through 2 pieces of HammerMill cardstock with some lacy layers dies by Waffle Flower. This is the A2 size. And then I'm also going to run through the same HammerMill cardstock with the base layer of the umbrella you can see here. That is from the Gent die set by Tim Holtz. I actually bought it just so I could use the umbrella because I thought the umbrella was really cool. So I ran that through as well for the base with white cardstock, and then I'm going to run the detail layer through with gold. I am a sucker for a white and gold card. I love that look, and I thought it would be really fun for this card design. I did also choose to do the handle in gold as well, just for a little extra gold on the design, and I ran that through my switch as well. And I will adhere those here in a second. But yeah, I love the look of white and gold together. I think that they are a great neutral when you have a whole bunch of other vibrant colors going on, which is what I will have once we get into doing the florals. But I mean, you could of course do any color palette you wanted here. I just thought gold would look really pretty with the flowers. But I mean, you could easily do like gray or brown or any kind of more neutral color so that it's not kind of stealing the show from the flowers. And then I'm going to adhere my layers together. So I love a white on white background. I think that it really leans itself towards being elegant. And these lacy layers really help that as well because they kind of give you a very, what's the right word? You know, when you have like I completely blanked on the name of like a doily. There we go. Sorry guys, I blanked there for a second. You know, like a doily where it's very elegant and dainty. And I find that these kind of lend themselves well to that look. So I had a lot of fun kind of creating a kind of neutral, elegant background and then having these vibrant florals on top. Now I didn't bring in any green, and you absolutely could, but I chose to do my leaves in gold, and you'll see that here in a little bit as well. But you could, of course, do green instead and just have the gold be on the umbrella and the sentiment. It's just that I really wanted a little bit more gold in the design, so I opted not to use green. But with florals, you absolutely could. So I'm going to jump in to spraying some watercolor cardstock here. I've cut these down just to be like half of an A2 panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've cut them in half because I only need a small piece to actually do the florals because the florals are quite small. So for the colors, I'm actually going to use 1 mica spray with each combo, and then I'm using either an oxide or an ink, depending on what kind of I was going for with it. So for the purple, I used Hocus Pocus as my mica, and then I used Shaded Lilac Oxide just to kind of get a very different look. I have 2 sets of mica and oxide, and then 2 sets of mica and ink spray. So I kind of get different finishes on my card, which I thought was really pretty. So for the yellow, I used Harvest Moon, which is the mica, and then Squeezed Lemonade Oxide. And then for the pink color, this is where I use a spray stain. That's why it's not quite as milky looking. I used WinterBerry as the mica and Spun Sugar Stain as the actual like distress spray. And then for the blue, I'm going to use Snow Flurries as my mica and then Tumbled Glass as my spray stain. And I do add a fair amount of water as well because I did want some movement with these panels just to kind of get a little bit of a different variation in them. And at this point, I have dried them. They are completely dry. And I'm going to run them through my Switch Plus with the Tim Holtz Brushstroke Flowers mini die set. So that actually has all the layers together. You can see the packaging here on the right-hand side. but that has all of the pieces together except the leaves. So it's easy to kind of put them together, but I did find that they didn't cut in the center of the die. So I ran them through my switch twice just to make sure that it cut all the way through. And I am also going to trim some of them apart, and you'll see that here in a minute when I actually get into building the card a little bit more. But I did find that after that second run through, it didn't have any problems cutting properly. This is a very thick color cardstock, watercolor cardstock. I think it's like 190 pounds. Like, it's quite a heavy cardstock. So I'm not really surprised that my switch had just of a struggle. It probably wouldn't have if I wasn't using the Magic Mat, but because the Magic Mat it sinks a little bit, it doesn't always cut perfectly through everything. So sometimes I just have to run it through twice, which, considering I don't have to replace my mats all the time, I do not mind at all. And then I did bring in my craft pick, and I just kind of popped out the little pieces that didn't belong. And then you have to be a little bit aware because some little pieces do belong and you need to keep them. So this little pink flower has 3 layers technically, but I am going to switch the centers of each flower around. So here you'll see that pink flower could have had a pink center because it cuts with the die, but I'm going to choose to use one of the centers from the yellow flower instead and add it to the pink flower. So you'll see what I mean here when we actually started hearing all the layers together. But for now, we're just kind of taking all of the pieces out, and then I kind of line up the little flowers so that I know what needs to adhere where. With these dies, it does indent, like it kind of gives you like a score line on the flower telling you where to adhere the next layer. So that's really nice. It does help and make it kind of easy. But honestly, if you didn't line it up perfectly, it really wouldn't matter. Like, these flowers would be beautiful regardless. So if that's important to you, no problem. It does have those score lines, but there's no wrong way to adhere these together. So it looks really pretty regardless. But here you can see that I took and did the blue centers for the yellow flowers. The pink one got a yellow center, and then the blue ones got pink and a yellow center. And the purple is a rose, so you don't actually see the center of it. It's too closed, so it didn't need a center, so I didn't give it one. But I did choose to keep the little base of the closed up rose purple. You could again add some green. I opted not to add green to this design, but you absolutely could, because it does cut this like little leaf and base for the little kind of half closed rose or mostly closed rose. So completely up to you. I opted to keep it purple because I knew I was adding no green to my design. So, but I mean, you could do any color. I've actually used this set last year for Mother's Day. I'm pretty sure I did a card for my mom with cups and these flowers. So if you want to check that out, you could. And I've done the flowers with green in them as well, and did just a different layout for these flowers. So back to the Facebook group. So Karen reached out to me because it is crafting month. It's National Crafting Month. And she reached out and asked if I would make a tutorial for the group for today, the 14th. So I said, of course, yes, I'd love to. It's a really great group of people who just love crafting. And there's a really diverse style of crafting in it as well. There's people who do journals and cards and tags and ephemera and everything. I think that every crafting thing you can think of, a lot of people kind of do that. So I will have the group linked if you wanted to check it out. It is For the Love of Paper is the name of the group, but I'll make sure to leave a link for it if you guys want to come check it out. But it's just a really cool group of people who just love crafting, and there's a lot of really interesting images that go up, and you get to check out what everybody's kind of making, which is always really fun. So I was really happy to create kind of a fun card for the group for today. So hopefully they jump over and watch the video and enjoy it. And if you're from the group, leave me a comment so that I know that you came and checked out my video. Just because it's always interesting to know, where people are coming to watch from. Because I never know, but yeah, please leave it. And if you're interested in the group, leave me a comment and tell me, because that's always interesting too. I am a little behind on my comments. If you guys have been with my channel for a little bit, you know that I always answer I always read every comment. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to answer just because I get busy, and then it's not my number one priority. Creating, new content kind of is. So I always read the comments. It's just sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to respond to the comments, but I always do respond to all of them. I just am a little behind most of the time, so bear with me. I will get through them all, but I do try to answer them if someone has like a very specific question. I try to answer it right away when I see it, but if it's just people saying they like my card, I generally just leave it until I have a chance to actually sit down and answer a whole bunch of them at the same time. So, but either way, leave me a comment if you have any thoughts. Tell me what you think of this card. Tell me, whatever you want to share with me. I always want to hear what you guys are up to. What are you making? What are you working on? What would you like to see me create? I'm always super interested in if you have any thoughts, so let me know. So you did see here that I've laid out my flowers how I want them, and I adhered them together because I knew I wanted to add this sentiment, but I needed to know how my flowers were going to be placed before I stamped it, because I didn't accidentally want to have the flowers or the leaves hiding the sentiment and then have to kind of rethink that. So I laid them out how I wanted to, and then I adhered just the flowers together, and then I adhered the umbrella actually onto my little kind of panel here so that I knew what I was working with. And then I stamped down a sentiment that says spring is coming. I did stamp it more than once just because I did have the gold. That gold ink just kind of takes a second to stamp nicely, I find. So I generally end up stamping it more than once, and I just missed the S the first time in spring, so I did have to restamp it regardless, which is why I like to use my Misti for that, so that I don't have to worry about if I need to stamp it more than once. It's very easy to do so. And I do have a Waffle Flower Mat in there too that just keeps everything in place because it's a sticky mat, so it holds my little panel in place while I stamp my sentiment, so I don't have to worry about it shifting. And then I adhered all of the flowers to the umbrella, but not to the card, because at this point I knew I wanted to add the leaves. You saw me cut out these 5 leaves from gold cardstock. I have a couple of vellum leaves sitting there as well. I thought I might use them. I didn't like how it looked, so I didn't end up using them. So they're just there. I just stick them in a package back in with their die set and then use them again later. But I chose just to have just the gold leaves kind of poking out behind some of the florals, just to kind of add a touch more gold. And just because I like this leaf shape, I think it's a lot of fun. This is from a SpellBinders set. I will link it if you can still get it. It's a set that I've had for a long time, so I don't know if it's still available or not. But if it is, I will have it linked down below. But it just has this really nice solid leaf with a great detail. So you could use the leaves from the set, but they come in again layers, and then you have to adhere all those layers. And I just wanted something really solid that would just give us a touch more gold. So it's kind of what I went for. And then to embellish it a slight more, I did add the flickering butterflies. This is one of my favorite dies. I think I add this to everything that just needs something a little bit extra, just because these butterflies are stunning. And I brought in some pearlescent vellum to use with them. They scream spring to me, and I think they finished off this card beautifully. And I just adhered them around, a couple around the sentiment, some of them throughout the florals. I think that die actually cuts out 8 different ones in 2 variations of size, so you kind of get a little bit of difference there. I do generally like more variants than that in my embellishment, but you get what you have, and this is that die. So maybe I'll find another small butterfly die that I can mix in with this one and get a little more variation, but the 2 sizes is better than none, so I can't really complain about it. But I did really enjoy just adding those butterflies. They were super subtle and just add a little bit of extra shine and shimmer into the kind of bouquet of flowers on top of that umbrella. And I think that this would make a beautiful Mother's Day card as well. I mean, I specifically made it a springtime card, but if you needed a Mother's Day card, this design with a Mother's Day sentiment would be beautiful, I think. So keep that in mind if that's something that you need to make here in the next little bit. As I think and you could use any small floral die. I mean, as long as you have an umbrella, any small floral die would work for this. It's just that I chose to use this small one by Tim Holtz because I have it, and because I thought that it would look really pretty. And for a bit of added shimmer and shine, I did add just little gems into the center of each butterfly. These are really subtle. They're like an opal gem by SpellBinders. So they're self-adhesive, and I just adhered them to each butterfly in the center, 2 different sizes, again for the size of butterfly, just because I thought thought that they would be really pretty. And that extra butterfly you see laying on my glass mat there, I actually adhered that inside of the card base. So I didn't want it to go to waste, so it just went inside the card base for just a little bit of a surprise when you open the card, and I thought that that would be really pretty. And then for a touch of dimension, I wanted to add my Big Mama foam tape. This is my favorite foam tape because it's literally like a 1/16 of an inch. That's how thin it is. So it adds a touch of dimension without making it really bulky or thick. So I thought that this would be just a fun addition to just give it a touch of more dimension on the card design. But yeah, that is the card that I made. I love how this came together. I think that it turned out really pretty, fairly elegant, and just kind of a fun, bright card to welcome spring. Spring is badly needed here. I'm Canadian, if you guys didn't know, and I live in the north. So it's cold and kind of dreary. The sun did shine today, so I can't complain too much, but like last week it was like -25. So I am ready for spring. I cannot wait for it to come. So this is a really fun card to make, kind of with that nod towards spring coming. So I'm going to show you a close-up of how this card turned out in all that beautiful shimmer and shine, and you can really see the mica in those flowers from that spray as well. So I love how this turned out. Please let me know what you think. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.